What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 41 of our Dota on Demand podcast. What is going on, man?
I am tired.
I was about to say, maybe I shouldn't ask how you are. I should be like, were you able to get enough sleep?
Yeah. No. I tried.
No.
It wasn't an easy task. I mean, there was just too much going through my mind. Even though we only got like 4 hours of sleep the night before, all that traveling, you'd think you'd be tired, but for whatever reason, I was still rearing to go. And I know you had a late night, didn't you?
I did. I was up playing Dota, actually. I was only up till, a decent time, but then I slept for 13 hours. So maybe I was a little bit more tired than I thought I would be. But, of course, if you guys didn't know, this is all because we were at the Dota 2 International 2, and it was awesome.
It was. I mean, it was an experience that you don't get very often. I'll put it that way. It was epic. And actually, this music's distracting me. I'm gonna turn it off. That, by the way, was Gangnam Style. For all those who should be on the scene.
Glad you were.
I wasn't kidding.
Playing that. That's great.
Well, people need to hear it. It's by PSY, and I might as well just make it a reference. It does directly relate to the international.
It does.
Because Dendi, after they won a game, he actually came out and started doing the dance for that, which you can YouTube and see the awesomeness that is. But yeah, like you said, it was a great experience. Now we took a couple videos a day, or a few videos a day. Still haven't uploaded all of them. Actually, we've only uploaded like 2 so far. So probably got to work on that eventually here. But,
yeah. We were lucky enough to get some pictures with Cinderin, with Arzart Art Style, and Light of Heaven, which was awesome. So we will have all that up for you guys as fast as possible. And Valve was very nice in giving everybody a bunch of Dota keys, and I've been like Oprah. You get a key, and you get a key. Everybody gets a key. So we will be giving away a few. I'm prepared to give away some tonight if anybody happens to jump into the chat. But also next week, I'm just going to probably wind up dropping some keys into the chat during the midst of the episode to give some of those out, so you guys can be sure to tune in with us next week. But the overall, as you may guess, kind of tone of this thing is going to be sort of like one of our old episodes. I believe it was 13. Love, hate is all the things we loved and hated about something. I don't even remember anymore. But we had some things that kind of we were sad about the international. So we're going to use that whole love-hate format to go through our experience of the international too.
Okay.
So do you start us off, buddy? Take it away.
Should we do that first, or should we do just a breakdown of what happened day by day for us?
You can do that. Did you love it or hate the breakdown of our?
Well, I hated the way you approached this. How we should do the order of things. You know what I love is the way I thought about doing it. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's my love-hate for right now.
There you go.
Yeah, I figured I might as well just give a breakdown quickly of our trip, our experience, from our view at least. So, we go Thursday after I get off work, and we take the metro in to the airport in D.C. I swear, every single flight was flawless, which is like a first for me in travel. We actually got there early to every single airport we arrived in, like 10-15 minutes early. Like, it was just fantastic. Like, couldn't ask for a better start for every trip, I guess. And then, anyways, we get there Thursday night around midnight. Even though we gained 3 hours, it was still an hour layover in Texas, and it was a connecting flight, blah, yada, yada. Thankfully, we had a friend there who actually lives there, who actually should be in, maybe his voice is in one of the videos, I don't know.
Yeah.
He goes by Schmo in games usually. His name's Josh. Yay, Josh. So anyways, and he let us stay with him. So he picked us up. We got to stay there. He also had a friend in town named Belinda, who was really cool. Got to meet her. And they were going to the PAX event, which was just like literally 2 or 3 blocks from our event. It was really cool how close those events were. And I mean, really good timing on Valve's part, I think.
Yeah, and it was really cool. They were even letting people in that went to PAX to come check out the Dota 2 tournaments. They had to sit in the upper seats, but we actually wound up doing that on the last day, and they were awesome. Even the crappy seats were fantastic to watch
Exactly.
from.
I mean, it's kind of almost like when I've gone to like a football game at like the football stadium here. Like even though you might be in like the upper seats or the bleachers, like you still get a cool view and you still get to experience the audience and get the feel. Like that's the best part about being in live. Obviously, like I actually. And it's funny you said talked about letting the PAX people in because there was Saturday, one point in the evening, where they literally let walk-ins. They announced, they said, anyone off the street, come on in. There's room for you. You know, we don't care. And I was like, oh, that's really nice of you people. Like, they just really wanted to get the message out there, like, hey, this game's awesome. We want everyone to see it and try it. And I think they did a really good job. And one of the statistics, might as well drop it now, was the fact that I think it is right now the most viewed esport in the world, or this event was. It broke over
Wow.
500K live viewers, including China. So, yeah,
Pretty
that's kind of
sweet.
amazing.
Yeah, I am so seldomly happy for companies because they're companies, they make money, they do fine. But it's like this is so awesome that the Valve was able to put this whole thing together, and it was fantastically put together. The whole event was just put together really well, and yeah, I mean they're able to get it out to everybody and have so many people be able to see it. Just like it's awesome for everybody. Um, yeah.
I was just going to go down. So then, so day one. So day zero was Thursday. That was our travel day. Day one of the international, when the winners losers brackets began. Basically, we got there bright and early, around 8, actually 7:40ish. We got there because the games they said started at 9:30 to 10 a.m. But we wanted to make sure we had to check in. Basically, you had to bring this printed out. I don't have a copy of it on hand, but like a print out copy of an email you get from Valve saying, "Oh hi, I bought a ticket. Let me in, please." And it has like a scan code or something. Even though they didn't even scan it, I don't think. I'm getting there. It's a story. This is an adventure. People need to hear.
On the first day.
Anyways, so we got in. They gave us an awesome little goodie bag, which is one of our videos. We opened it up, and you'll see all that once we upload it. We got some really good seats the whole weekend. Like we were able to get some really good. So we went some. At one point, we were like 8 rows up from the front. And usually we were towards the back, though. It was still a great view. I mean, there was, like you said, there was no bad spot in that place, so that was pretty
That
nice.
that hall was such a great venue, and the thing that I thought was awesome about it too was, I'm sure you guys may have seen through, well, eventually some of our pictures and videos, but maybe even from watching the stream, there were balconies along the sides where all the teams were sitting and had their flags in front of them, and lights put on the flags, and so as teams were getting eliminated, their flags would go out. And I mean, obviously, as you guys know if you had watched. By the way, this is like all the spoilers again, so just cover the ears,
Oh
whatever.
yes.
At one point in the tournament, Navi is the only team from the West left. And so you could just look to your right, and it's like, oh, there's one flag lit up, and you look over there, and there's only one flag out. And but it was pretty neat just to have that set up and to be able to really, be able to also look at the team, see who's actually playing. So even teams you're not familiar with, you go, oh, okay, that's that guy. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It was really cool. You got to see them up close and personal. After like every set of games, pretty much, the pros were they never like stayed there. They were actually out in front all the time. That's how we got the picture of Cinderin and Navi people. And I think it might have been Havorst instead of one of those people. By the way, I think it was
Oh,
Havorst. Because I was looking at pictures of everyone. We'll have to get the confirmation. Actually, our friend Schmo, he's the one that took the pictures, so we'll get confirmation of that. But I was like, oh wait, was that? They look the same to me. Dendy's the only one that I guess Dendy and Puppy don't. I don't know. I'm being kind of a jerk right now.
they each need a
They're
very
just
specific head cut. Haircut. One of them gets the puppy-esque fluff on
the
the front,
foof, the
and then
foof.
the dandy bowl cut, and then someone needs like a mohawk, and then so there's my hate, right? Some people in Navi's hair are the same.
Just just terrible. How offensive. But anyways, yeah, we got through there. We watched all the games pretty much. Saturday, same deal. We got there pretty early. Got to watch most of the games. I don't think we watched all the games from any day. That we usually went home a little earlier on most days. Like we didn't stay till like what was it, like 11 for most nights. Like when the games ended 11 or 12. Just because we also we're tired at one point, or we just had a long day, or we wanted to eat dinner, whatever the reason. We watched most of the games. I'll put it that way. And then, of course, we were there for the play is what it's called officially. And we'll get into that later in the cast here. But that Navi IG game, yeah, we'll get into that later. But we were there live for that, so you actually, when you watch that, you can see us in the audience. I spotted us cheering
Nice.
with the rest of the whole freaking place. It was about to come down. But yeah, so overall, amazing experience. And there we go. Now I guess we can jump into love hates because I had to get it out there.
Okay. Let's see. Would you like to start the list off, or shall I go to
Well, it
my
looks like
my
you
book of
have a
books?
list, so let's. How about you start?
The clear one is loved it, hate that it's a year until the next one. Um, but yeah, the one thing that I really did enjoy about the whole thing was it legit felt like a real sports event because at the end of the day, and like I even had this issue recently where right I was out on a date and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to Seattle, and she's like, oh, that's cool, what are you going for? I'm like, I'm going video game tournament. But it's neat that it felt like a legit thing because sometimes you feel so like, this is a nerdy thingy, but it was so well produced and everything. It was just fantastic to see it as a real thing.
Yeah, no, they literally like the way they did it, and I didn't even know what to expect because I mean I watched the replays from the first one, but I didn't watch it live or anything. I didn't know any of that, and I didn't know what to expect coming in. The sense, of course, now Valve like took over. It's like their whole event is in control. They have every aspect they want to do, and right away the first yeah like I noticed was when we walked in to the left were those four chums. I guess I'll call them. It was two LD Nebula, Gods, as most people know Gods from this group, and then the Statsman Bruno, and they were like Sports Center is how I want to compare them to. Like these
Yeah.
guys that like have like a show going on in between games and giving like statistics, going over like analytics for games, and then the other cool thing was all the casters they brought in. Like they switched it up a lot. Like last year was pretty much just Toby for English with Slash. This year Toby was there. But they had just other groups of two, and they all did really a fantastic job.
Yeah, Icy, Drascal, Luminous, and
LD.
LD. They all did a really great job too. And I gotta say, this is a very selfish. I like that Toby didn't get the cast of finals because I mean it's obvious you and I are gonna be flown out by Valve for the
Yeah.
next one
Well.
because we will be that famous by then. But it's neat because it opens up the ability for all these other casters to actually be able to aspire to get to do that and be on that main stage themselves. It's not only the teams that are getting this shot to be in front of everybody, but even the casters are around. So Valve's being nice enough to not just Toby have it on lockdown. Everybody really gets a chance to participate.
Yeah, exactly. It opened the floodgates. Yeah, and Toby and actually Cinder, and I thought it was gonna be Slash, but and Slash was there by the way. I saw him in an after interview or something. But why is your internet laggy or something? All right. Anyways, I'll just
I
keep
decided
going.
to be a square.
You go square, rectangle, square, whatever.
Circle.
I just can't ignore geometry. Adam's taught me too much. Yeah, so, inside jokes. I probably shouldn't make them on podcasts. But
Hmm.
anyways, yeah, it was they those two were able to actually cast. They casted the winners bracket final, the losers bracket final. But yeah, like you said, the grand final was LD and Luminous, and I mean that was just really cool saying, hey. These guys, even though they're not like as known, I mean, they're still pretty known on the forum, but they're not like super as Toby. I mean, Toby's been around forever, but still they're like, hey, you guys did a fantastic job, and we're going to give you that privilege. And apparently, like, Toby wasn't even aware what he was doing, like, the day before it happened. So they were, like, kind of. I guess they weren't completely organized on that front. Maybe they had an idea, but they weren't 100% sure how they wanted to do it. Like, maybe, like, okay, we'll see how they do live, and then we'll play it by ear. Like, I mean, that probably makes the most sense, because what if these guys get flown in and, like, get super nervous on stage and, like, just have an awful time? Thankfully, that didn't happen, but, I guess it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Do you have any now?
Which one was that, a hate or a like? I feel like it was a
It was
love.
both. It was both.
Oh, well. Do I have any boths?
No, that was a like.
Oh,
That felt like a sports thing.
okay.
And that
Well,
they rotated casters.
all right.
So
Well, then I'll do a. No, it's not like it's a love. It's got to feel.
it is.
Like
Oh,
love.
it's a. Oh yeah, it's a special kind of love.
Oh, it is because
Mm,
that's like you said, it's gonna be us next year. So
exactly.
I mean, I would have felt comfortable up there. I thought they were gonna ask us to do a guest cast for the grand finals, but that just didn't happen for what. Probably because we were leaving early. They were like, we don't want to hassle you.
to piggyback on the thing, so I'm just going to apparently monopolize all the loves. I love that you actually got recognized. We met
Oh
we
yeah.
met Sprock from Trapped in the Trees. If you guys are keeping up with the Reddit tournament, we ran into him. Apparently, Eraser was there as well from Trapped in the Trees. Didn't get to meet him. Jay was recognized. I not so much, which I think is
Well, you'll get to my level soon. Don't worry.
it makes me so mad that I'm going to turn into a rectangle.
That's okay. I mean, I'm used to it by now. You know. Yeah, I guess one of my loves. Well, besides that, since I felt pretty famous that day, even though it wasn't, was well, I guess I want to say a hate, but I'm gonna go. I guess I'll go with some love. Was also the secret shop and all the items that were within. Uh, that was cool, and I don't know if there were good views of that from because sometimes I guess shots went out to like the crowd outside the thing, and maybe you could have seen the shot from there. But I'm currently wearing a shirt. I don't know if you are. Probably not. I'm wearing the shirt I bought though. We also got hoodies. We got matching hoodies. Even our friend did. So we were all really cool when we went out to eat and stuff.
Oh
Just in
yeah,
our
of
matching
course.
Dota 2 hoodies, just saying Heather Gray, what's up? Or whatever the heck we would have said there. Um, but yeah, no, it was really cool swag, and honestly, we kept calling it swag because that's I guess just what you have to call it if it's a Dota item. Um, it was really nice stuff, and it was like affordable, which was the surprising part to me. I was like, $20 for a T-shirt is what you'll find at like any T-shirt store. It's not like jacked up like now their concession stands. That was like eating at like a sports event. It was like $5 for a Monster Energy drink, which unfortunately I paid for once. There was like $3 candy. I was like, yeah, that's a bit overpriced. But people were just didn't want to leave the building, and I'm sure they took plenty of advantage of that.
Yeah, I got baited into buying quite a bit because there are also some exclusive in-game stuff. So I got a couple couriers and I got a Tide Hunter offhand. Ugh. So that was pretty cool. Enjoyed that one. But yeah, that was really cool. Just the way they had that secret shop set up, and they had a lot of neat stuff there, and especially because merchandise isn't really that easy to come by for Dota 2. Actually, being able to buy some of that stuff there was pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I really liked that, and like you said, it was nice design things. There was actually I saw a lot of people with like this. It was almost like a hoodie. I guess they call it a track suit or a track jacket or something. But it was like black. It said the International 2 on the back of it. Like it was almost like those high school varsity jackets. I felt like, but for like Dota instead. And all the cool kids had it, right? We didn't. We just had our little Heather Gray with just a little tiny red logo in the corner, whatever. But it was good enough for us, right? It was warm, and we needed it to be warm because that's one of my hates about Seattle. It is cold. It's supposed to be. I guess it's not summer, but come on, it's not winter yet, and it felt like winter almost some days.
I'd say the average temperature is about 10 degrees lower than we're used to, and it didn't seem to be humid at all, which is something that we Marylanders expect, the extra funk of the humidity. So yeah, it was really nice out there, and a lot better air quality. I know as soon as we returned,
Oh
like
yeah.
just choking the first couple of breaths, but whatever. I guess maybe we should get in some like specific Dota stuff. I don't know. What do you
What
think?
for the international? What? Actually,
Crazy, right?
apparently, I'm talking to Semi now, and he said apparently Sprock called him just to tell him about it.
That's awesome.
You'll never
That's
guess
awesome.
who I saw. My
Uh,
favorite casters,
yeah, man.
or something.
I loved seeing some new stuff. It was really, I guess, obviously, as you guys have noticed, a lot of really the same picks, a lot of heroes that you could really come to expect out of a lot of teams. I think even some of the surprise picks, Luna came up a lot more
Oh
than I
yeah.
think we were expecting, even though we had seen her earlier on in the, like, I guess you would call it the preliminaries. And also the Tiny Whisk combo, eHome brought back in, and that was a fat Tiny. Let's just leave it at that. We did get to see some other picks, though, that maybe weren't so good in trying to find ways around some of these powerhouse teams. Support Mirana from Complexity. Tri-lane support Nyx Assassin from Navi. Discuss.
Which terrible thing first?
Whichever you decide.
Let's go with fluff and stuff on the Murana. So actually, I'm gonna try to see if I can pull this lineup in while I'm getting there. Yeah, it was between Okay. It was being Complexity and who else? Who did they play? eHome, right? Or was this earlier? Was
I
this in
don't
the
know.
winners bracket?
It's not important.
Well, it is because I was trying to find their lineup. Their lineup's pretty important for the games.
Okay. Well, in the meantime,
In the
would you
meantime,
just like to give your thoughts about it, maybe?
I guess. So yeah, basically, they ran support, and it was like a roaming ish. I mean, she kind of stayed top lane to protect their carry, but she was leveling arrow, prioritizing arrow. She got arrow level 1, then leap, then arrow again, and maybe Starfall at that point. But she was maxing her points in arrow first to try to get that initiation. But I believe, and I was like, I was probably being a little rude about it because I was just upset at the fact they were kind of making a terrible decision there. Sick Joe, you might be the only one there.
What? Continue your story, please.
Sorry, I just want to make sure he doesn't feel alone in the world.
Great.
Anyways, everyone listening's like, "What the hell's going on here?" But yeah, it just didn't make sense. I mean, if you're gonna pick a support that at least is gonna roam or try to protect someone, I understand that he's ranged. He's got a far range. The arrow, if it lands, is very effective at stunning, but that's the issue, especially in high level play and really like low latency because it's a land. People can react to things like that very easily. And the arrow is a pretty slow projectile, more or less. So if you see it coming, although it's kind of small, these people have a sharp eye for it. And he may have hit just a small fraction of the arrows that flew the whole time, and that was like a huge deal about it, and that's why I really didn't like it.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because, like you said, yeah, it's not all that hard to dodge, and I mean, I think the ultimate really didn't even get utilized all that effectively. They weren't able to do a whole lot with that. They weren't able to use it aggressively all that often, so it wound up just not doing a whole lot. And I think especially if you were to even, let's say, Windrunner, who is a hero that you wouldn't really expect to see in a tri lane, I think I'd rather see her because then, okay, at least you're securing the mini stun. You still have some long range damage. You still have an escape. So yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I found the lineup now. It was the third game, if you want to watch it, between Zenith and Complexity. By the way, these are all in the Dota 2 client. So you can just go to the international tab. It has a breakdown of every single game. Now, of course, it's going to be a spoil for you if you go through the brackets. You'll see who won what. But this is already a spoil for you. So if you're listening, good luck. Anyways, and they ran Anti-Mage's TC, farming top. Mike was on Venomancer, and then it was Mirana, of course, fluff and stuff there. And then they had Nature's Prophet mid and Beastmaster bottom. So while those three heroes, like Nature's Prophet, Beastmaster, and Anti-Mage, are all, I think, top tier heroes, and even Venomancer, just the fact that, like, they added that Mirana to that lineup just did not compute. I mean, Nature's Prophet and Anti-Mage are usually enough late game to do enough damage for you, to help out your team. So why pick a person who needs farm to do well in team fights?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're looking just to use the utility, I mean, I guess with the Beastmaster ultimate too, it makes it a little bit easier. Like, okay, they're still, let's get the arrow going across the world. But yeah, like trying to roll the dice that much on seeing if you're able to hit something is maybe not what you want to do when you're fighting to survive in the tournament. I don't know.
Well, it's a thing like, I want to almost compare it to Pudge Hook in LAN events. Like, the fact that, actually, I think it's more like the opposite. Like, Pudge Hook, the reason Pudge is not used in offline events, or I'm sorry, online events, that didn't make much sense, is because of that latency issue that I go back to, where, like, when you cast it, maybe it'll delay a second or a half second or whatever, and then you might have missed. But in the Miranda case, that second delay might actually help you because they might not react in time and they'll get stunned. So she might be just a slightly weaker, especially though if you're solely depending on her arrow to be used effectively in your team lineup.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think the Pudge is a faster projectile speed anyway.
It is.
So, I mean, that brings us to it too. Like, okay, well, you could hit it, but yeah, like you're saying, you're going to be able to see it faster, so if you can just get out of the way of it in general. The other thing that was a little weird, the very last game of the finals, Nyx Assassin in the tri lane.
Yep. Yep.
Very
Why?
interesting. And
Why?
and
Oh, why?
I only say this because this was certainly one of my loves. I would say that Puppy invents the next level of Dota in his draft. Just throughout really the winners bracket um, and going into the finals as well. The commentators kind of brought up some really good points and stuff that I probably wouldn't have thought of right off the bat. So kudos to them to think about it. Going against the Keeper of the Light, they were like, oh yeah, the Illuminate. So you can just really easily block that with the Spike Carapace. So really looking at it to sort of take advantage of the utility, but then using this assassin as a support hero may not have worked as well as they liked.
Yeah, they ran the aggressive trial, and actually Navi did this pretty much pretty common, I think I'd say, using that Juggernaut on Havorst, and using it aggressively for kind of like a pushing strat. Getting tanky early on. This is like different than most Juggernauts you'll see in the pub or in different games. Like a lot of Juggernauts will build late game carry. They'll get like a Battle Fairy like Anti-Mage, try to farm up a lot, and then try to carry you into late game. This way, though, he always went Soul Ring really early. You'll probably. I think I miss an item here. I know he likes Vanguard. I think he went Treads too instead of Phase Boots. Phase Boots are usually more common on him, so he can keep up with people as he's spinning and whatnot. But he went Treads. And he just went like tanky. He went tanky, leveled up Ward right after spin instead of getting stats or crit, and just really focused on pushing with his team. And it was very unique and very cool to see. But in this particular game, it just did not work. It was an aggressive tri-lane, like you said, with Nyx and Leshrac. That's what they ran with Juggernaut bottom. And they were up against that Kodal Naga Siren Tidehunter. And Kodal, like you said, was just doing a great job just picking people off, using that wave, doing a ton of damage. And with the Naga Siren, when there was an instance or two when she popped that ultimate, he was able to keep charging it up, and you could hit pretty much everyone. And they had the Darkseer too that game. You know, for whatever reason, Navi just not as concerned with heroes like Naga Siren and Darkseer, whereas every other team seemed to put the ban hammer on them almost instantly.
Well, yeah, I mean that's something I wanted to bring up, and it's really interesting realizing at the tournament too. These heroes are so just globally inside of Dota considered to be overpowered or so strong that you don't want to play against them. And it's actually really neat if you can figure out a way around it. And clearly, I think they were just in individual play. Some of the fights that they were able to turn around just because of how well Dandy, Puppy, everybody on that team were playing. They weren't afraid of them. They were able to deal with these heroes. And when you think about it like that, if you're in the draft and you're like, we don't care, we're going to let these heroes through. The other team might try and let these heroes through. And let's say they want to pick them with their first two picks. That means that we get exactly what we want with our first picks. Because we know if they get the first pick, it's Darkseer, it's Naga Siren. Then we get whatever we want. Then one of their next two picks, it's going to be Naga Siren or Darkseer. So you're really actually limiting yourself for your own picks if you think that these heroes are so strong that you have to have them if they get through.
Yeah, exactly. It is an interesting way to think. And actually, also another thing before this tournament, before I even really saw it happening, was I never really understood how useful or how much Rubik was going to be picked this tournament. Like I didn't predict it in my mind. Now I'm sure a lot of people who watched from Dota 1 were like, "Oh yeah, of course he's an amazing hero." And I understand his potential. He's got a lot of it with that spell steal. You can potentially get some amazing things like we saw happen quite a lot as it was. But he was just banned or first, second picked just so frequently. It was really interesting to see that, and then of course if he does get picked early, if you're the other team, you now are a lot more afraid to pick heroes like Enigma, like Tidehunter, because if he's able to be on the outside edge of that and not caught in it, he's going to use it right against you, and that's going to be a big deal later in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was something that was actually really just strange. The number of times that Rubik was able to steal, I believe it was in the Navi series, he was able to steal the Ravage from Tidehunter, not using the Anchor Smash immediately after. The Ravage was able to turn it right back around on the other team and really give them a huge advantage by having that second. Did a really great job in stealing those, but then the other team kind of had some misplay in not protecting themselves from giving those abilities up.
Yeah, exactly. And now we might as well get into. Well, let's finish up the Nyx Assassin. So let's try to figure out, okay, why maybe this was run this time. Now, I went over the Murana. Why do you think they decided to go Nyx in this tri lane?
Well, I mean, the Impale is going to be capable of hitting multiple people, so if you do want to run something aggressive, they had two AoE stuns. I think really trying to deal with the Keeper of the Light, like some of the casters were pointing out, just having the ability to reflect that damage and just to be able to get out of it might have been the reason he decided to go for it. I mean, I think you could also argue, well, that's kind of strange. Why are we trying to, ensure that a support isn't taking extra damage? Was there maybe another way to go about it? Like, you could even maybe argue like a dazzle, like just heal everybody up after it, and now you have the armor swing and the ultimate and shallow grave and all these other tools. It just seems, I think, a little weird when you consider the ulti and the mana burn. These tools aren't really going to be effective on a support here. Like, you're not really going to be able to take advantage of those. Yeah.
It just felt like to me their team, like I said, they had the Juggernaut who builds kind of for like healing ward, good for pushing, good for team fighting. Rubik, of course, amazing for team fighting with the Spell Steal and the Fade Bolt and Telekinesis. Lone Druid, amazing pusher. Does a lot of damage in team fights. Leshrac, I don't have to say anything about him. Everyone knows his amazingness. And then you go Nyx Assassin, who's, well, he does have the line stun. He's always been known as a ganker. He's an assassinator, like a good assassinator. Like you'll most commonly see him run at least pub scene like middle. Actually, that one pro game I casted had him middle and go Dagon, things like that. Like good for assassinating before a team fight really breaks out. Because once a team fight breaks out, he really doesn't have a lot of tools at his disposal. When you compare him like Tidehunter, who does tons of AoE damage, great stun, a slow with armor reduction, all these different things. Assassin really after the stun just has like mana burn, and like that's not enough.
And that's the other thing too is mana burn. I mean, when we talked about it in our episode about Nyx Assassin, he actually gets kind of item dependent as he starts to level that up because the spell itself actually gets really expensive and the cooldown gets really short. So if you're a support, okay, you impale, you use your Spike Carapace, maybe you Vendetta in or you want to Vendetta out, then you get what? 2 mana burns, and then you're out of mana yourself. So what are you really bringing to the fight afterwards?
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense, and the audience of course was like cheering because like, oh my god, Nyx Assassin Grand Finals, how cool! And then like they saw the lane, and then like as the game was going and like it wasn't working clearly, everyone was like, oh, Navi throwing the game, throwing the series, throwing. And of course they weren't. I mean, it's for $1 million. That's a 750,000 difference between second and first place. You don't just throw the game. They thought out this strategy. They were like trying to think, how can we, maybe this will work, because like I look at their lineup, the Kodal, the TA, and the Naga, all kind of squishy targets, more or less. Of course, the refraction could be hard to burn through. Of course, Naga could build tanky, and then it's kind of hard to kill her. But maybe if you could get a quick pick off of one of those really annoying heroes in the fight, then it could pay off in the long run. I don't know.
And the Vendetta, if they're not carrying invisibility detection, it's going to mean that you're going to be able to really get sight on the opposing team and get yourself into a perfect position for a great impale too. So I can understand where Puppy's coming from and picking this. I just think it was unfortunate that it didn't work out. And of course, because that's probably the only time we'll see it, it'll go down in history as, yeah, no, don't ever put Nyx in a tri-lane, But I still, like, if it's like, if you were to tell me, all right, you get to see Puppy not ban Naga and Darkseer consistently, play against it and beat it, for him to suck with a tri-lane Nyx Assassin, I'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll watch that. That sounds fantastic. I think at the end of the day, what they were able to do was amazing, and the fact that IG was able to beat it, even more, astounding. They played really well, and I think if we want to move into something else, something that both you and I weren't as much a fan of, the super farm going on, and I don't even think you could. It was really. I don't think it was farm centric play. I think it was really Roshan centric play. They were really wanted the Aegis before they did anything, and well, he's dead for 10 minutes after you kill him, so let's go farm in the meantime.
It's funny. One of the people, like I said, Josh's friend Belinda, she's a fan of LoL, and so she understands MOBAs, but Dota's obviously a whole different beast. So she was kind of trying to get explanation. Of course, the games like they were coming into were these China fights, because of course the top five China teams, or those five China teams, were all still going towards the end of the freaking tournament. So when there was of course a lot of instances where it was China versus China, and their styles are very similar in the fact that, yeah, like you said, they farm, they farm, they farm, and then eventually their fights break out around Roshan most of the time. Now, of course, I think IG actually was one of the exceptions to that rule. Eho might be as well. They go a little bit off the beaten path. With like IG, for example, they were going pretty heavy pressure in a lot of their games. Getting those tier 1 towers down quickly, building an advantage, and trying to get their carry farmed up with that as well. But yeah, there was just so many Roshan pits, and what I was bringing Belinda in before was the fact that I was telling her, oh well, you have to wait till the third Roshan goes down so you get the cheese and Aegis, and then you can push into the base before you can do anything.
Yeah. Um, it was really kind of a grind to watch a lot of those games. Even you mentioned eHome. Yeah, they were one of those teams that was actually doing something out of the box, picking up Wisp and Tiny and playing it so well. But the one game that I remember specifically, Tiny had 10,000 gold after being bought out, still killing creeps in the lane. They still wouldn't commit. They had their carry completely bought out with an Aegis, and they were still unsure of themselves when pushing in. So yeah, those were a little frustrating to watch. But I think as far as a love thing, I love that EG was so good at being able to handle Na'Vi, because I think Na'Vi really, they play their game, and to the other team it's like, good luck. And if you're one of these Asian teams that has to go up against that can be very startling to have to play against such a drastically different style. But IG was able to do it, and they were able to just really take the situation back in their own hands, turn around some of the situations that Na'Vi tried to put them in, and play multiple games of Dota, or play different styles of Dota throughout this tournament, and take it all.
Apparently, Belinda joins us in chat and says, "I need a new webcam." Because now that you have a new one, mine looks like. Well, no, it's not that mine looks worse. Mine has always looked bad, but yours was so bad that mine looked like decent. Mine looked like a regular camera, and now you have like this exceptional clear cut one, and mine's like, hey, I can see 20 pixels in that. That's pretty sweet.
There you go.
Maybe one day after the international budget pays itself back. Yeah, I don't know. There was actually, and she brings up a game that was brought up, the Tiny Wisp game. Now, of course, when we saw that happen, you were in love. Your
This
Wisp
guy.
hero was picked up. Although I haven't seen you play him actually recently in Dota. I know you like the hero himself, and yeah, what an amazing game that was.
Falco Punch.
Right.
Enough said. Tiny got a little out of hand. Eventually gets himself a Daedalus and was just two-shotting people. And that combination's great. I mean, we discussed it last time. Yeah, Wisp is a hero I love to death, but he's such a situational pick. You really need particular circumstances for him to succeed. You have to have certain heroes with him, I think, if you're going to really take advantage of that. But it was nice to see that sort of new strategy out of somebody. And that even was still kind of a slow game, if I remember correctly, but far more interesting than some of the other Farm Fests.
Yeah, the lineups there. Actually, the thing is against Orange Esports in the losers bracket, eHome versus Orange Esports. And Orange had a great start. They had the Morphling, who was just getting so farmed, had so many last hits, was doing just a fantastic job. They had the Broodmother, the Invoker, they had Chen, they had all these great heroes that, you see this line and you're like, wow, how can they lose? And then over there, it was the Wisp Tiny show. I mean, the rest of the team, don't get me wrong, they were helpful. The Brewmaster, the Tidehunter, Shadow Shaman, they all had great teamfight abilities. But what it really came down to was once Tiny got that Ognim Scepter, and then eventually started getting attack speed items and all these different things, he was just two-shotting creep waves with his cleave. He would go in, there was moments like where he would start getting attacked by their enemy team, and he would just start attacking like the main target, like maybe his Brood or Morphling, and it would cleave the Chen behind him and like three-shot the Chen, because it's a big radius. I think it's bigger than a Battle Fury, and it just does a crap ton of damage, and it's amazing to see it work late game like that.
Yeah, it is really neat, and that's something that you don't really even consider. I think all that much when you think about Tiny and the Aghanim Scepter. I mean, it's mostly about the being able to kill the buildings, but then it's just like in team fights, he just cleaves for all the damage. Like, what can you do? Um, I one of the things that I really, 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 really did enjoy about the international, and just I guess now we can say the history of the international because now we have 2 points on our line, was that somehow the champions of last year came back to be the comeback hope for so many people, and everybody. You guys could hear if you were watching the stream. Chants coming out for Navi. The only time that any other team had that kind of love was after Navi started one. Everybody was like, "Well, wait, shouldn't we should cheer too? DK, DK." Um, and it was like everybody's favorite all of a sudden coming back into this, which I think is particularly interesting because you have some people who are almost. It's almost like I'm trying to think of a good example that would be more worldwide. But for us, it's like some of the sports teams that do so well, you just start to hate them because they do so well. And they get such devout fanboys. You hate their fanboys because they're just way too into the team. But everybody there was just like, yeah, let's do this. The last hope, really, for the West, to try and come back and take this again. And it was such an electric atmosphere that really made the whole trip worthwhile, I think.
Yeah, that's obviously the main difference. And I did go back and see or listen to some of the replays here and there. Like, first of all, just watching all those games, like literally maybe 10 hours a day of Dota non-stop. Well, okay, we got like Chipotle here and there. But, of course we did, right? But really just reinvigorated me to not only want to keep casting and get back into playing Dota itself, and maybe want to become a better player. Like watching these people at high skill. I don't know what you're laughing about so much. What is it?
You reminded me of something, and just saying that you wanted to play Dota again. So last night, me, Bonk, Terps, and Genobeam, if you guys are familiar with any of our friends who occasionally pop on the cast, and we've shown games from before, we all decided to start playing. And we start playing super serious. Like, just because, like, Lashrak Shadow Demon tri-lanes are around Chaos Knight, Bonk was taking Morphling mid. Bonk never plays Morphling, and now he's never not played Morphling in the last 2 days. He's just going crazy. And there were so many people who were like, "Oh, you guys going to I3? You guys try hard? I hope they never show professional Dota games again, because now all people do is try hard." And it was just like, it's
Oh boy.
awesome that being able to watch so many great games played, being able to see that, just like, yeah, we can do that. Let's try that out. And I'm sure we're not the only people that decided to start trying all of a sudden. I'm sure a lot of people, instead of going their LOL sniper random, might actually be picking some of these heroes and being like, "Oh man, I didn't even realize you could do that with this hero. Let's pick them up and let's see if we can do that in our own play."
Yeah, exactly. And actually, Dark Red's questioning. He said, "What are your thoughts on the atmosphere?" We're kind of already we're going to that now, more or less. But it's hard to really put a tangible description on it. Like I kind of said earlier in the game, it's like going to like a any sports game. I would say like I said, going to like a football game, but going to somewhere where, in this case, you're always rooting for the home team more or less because there really is no home team. I mean, there's people there cheering for different teams and everything. Now, I have to say, after the U.S. teams got eliminated, of course, they were kind of the home team since, well, let's face it, it's in the U.S. and there was two of them. But after they got eliminated, Navi really took over as the crowd favorite. And of course, it was like the comeback story. They didn't have a great start in the preliminaries, 8-6. I mean, they had a 2-4 start the first day. Everyone's like, "Who is this team? Is this the same as the last year's winners? Like, are they even going to make it out of like the first round of the losers bracket or something?" But they came back 8-6, and then in the brackets, they were just a whole new team. They really had a drive, they had a mission, and they played exceptionally. When you saw their games and saw the crowd just get into it, like you might hear. Some of the replays, you might hear the crowd in the background, like cheering. It's like kind of soft. It's like maybe you'll hear occasional like "yay" or something like. But no, when you're there, it is all emotion, really.
Yeah, and I mean, there were times, even especially in some of the Navi games, there's this one dude in the back who's just like, "No, get out there, Dad!" Like just yelling at the top of his lungs, like just getting so into it, and the crowd, like we were just saying, and the cheers, and then even when you just think about just sitting there, even waiting between the games, just having all the teams like up in their balcony seats, just getting to look up and see all the people there. People, as you guys saw, if you were looking at the crowd, just waving their country flags, a lot of China flags, a lot of Ukraine flags, I believe, for Navi. It was really great, and of course, everybody waving the inflatable axes around was great atmosphere as well. But yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the cast, it was just like it was a real sports event, and it really sort of was the difference between watching the Super Bowl at home and being there in person. It was really fantastic, and I'm going to do everything in my power to be at I3. That's for sure.
How many times did you say we're already getting free tickets?
Yeah,
Some way or
bouncing
another.
flies
Either we'll
now.
be part of the analytics crew, or we'll be there. Don't worry.
Or we'll be escorted out for harassing the pro players.
Well, that actually that was close to happening probably at one point or another. But
Can I get one more?
what?
Can I? Can I?
Fine.
Can I get? This is like I think my last major one. Uh, Cosplay Crystal Maiden.
Oh yes.
My
Of course
love,
you.
my love is that there was one, and she agreed to pose for pictures with me, which will be uploaded on the Dota
Us. I was there.
Man. You know,
I don't think I was
you're
even like a
cropped
second
out
thought,
already.
honestly. I think
I,
honestly she didn't even know I was taking the picture with her. Like I was on the other side, but she was like leaning on your shoulder just a little bit. You were just the cheesiest smile I have ever seen you have in your life.
it was great. Um, the hate is that now my heart is broken because I can't find Crystal Maidens everywhere I go.
There'll never
But
be another one.
that was fantastic.
It's all about the memories you share.
Yeah,
You keep
and
them
that's
alive.
another great thing too. That's sort of I think like especially with League of Legends, we promised scantily clad pictures. We didn't actually make it to the LOL party unfortunately, but we will have a link to some of the cosplayers from LOL if you guys are interested and happen to like that game as well. That's sort of almost like a trademark, I think, of video games and stuff like that at this point. And it was great getting to see a couple people really commit. I think you guys, if you watched the stream, got to see all of them. The Invoker, I got a picture of. Windrunner, Crystal Maiden. It's nice seeing those elements join Dota, especially because it is so. The Dota 2 is so young. It's great seeing that atmosphere really start to come together and really rise up and be just like some of these other big video games like League of Legends.
Yeah, exactly. It is cool to see this uprise, and it just excites me for the future of the game. Like, if there was that many people tuning in and getting all these people started on the game as well, like the fact that they gave out like so many beta keys. Well, that's why we're giving some away in chat, of course. If you do need one, give us a shout. BDLM will be hooking you up very shortly. I think it also provides an in-game item. I got. Oh yeah, I used one myself. I wasted the beta key, but I didn't care because I wanted
Whoa.
to. I had to. It said an item.
Was
I
it
get
good?
taunted. It was item taunt. What can I do?
Was it good?
It was pretty sweet. It was an axe decapitator axe, which is like this beautifully designed axe. It was. It's pretty much worth wasting a beta key for. I'll have to say.
I think I just lost one,
Oh,
unfortunately.
it just got lost in the
Whoa.
fray. But there was one more thing. We were talking about the ambience and the audience. Vuvuzelas made their way to the international too, from all the way from Africa. There were, I think it was a group of 3 guys, and they played those. They blew air through a tube.
Yes.
Of course, when the game's counting down to 0 from the beginning, and that loud horn shoots out, they were tooting away. If a big play was made by the U.S. or Navi, they'd toot away. Like, it added to it. At some points, it got a little annoying, but I'm like, okay, I'll accept it because the crowd's getting loud enough that it's not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Do you do you have anything else? I'm trying to think if I have
About what?
just love hate.
Love, hate, celebrate. Oh,
Yeah,
that was literally
and I
the
think
name
that
of
was actually the name of the episode, the last one.
Well, we already just said how we hated the China Farm Fest.
Yep.
I did love the aggressive playstyles that came out. I did love also. The thing I liked about IG, and I didn't really know much about them until this tournament. They've been around for a while, but the fact that how they have adapted to meet Navi's needs. Like for example, Navi played LGD in the winner bracket final, and LGD up to that point was 17-0. They had not gotten a single loss on their record. That is just something astonishing. That's like a perfect season in football. Like, how many teams can do that? Right? Like, screw Tom Brady. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it was something spectacular. And then, of course, they played Navi. I believe they won the first game in the series between Navi. And then in the second game, yeah, that's how it went. So they were on a roll, and then of course Navi still fighting, getting into the audience, and they ended up taking 2 of those 3 games and putting LGD in the bottom bracket, and that's where IG played them and came out on top as well. And so they went from 17-0, the number one contender, just to falling out to third place just that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the thing that I really did enjoy about it. I don't know if this is atmosphere or just whatever you want to call it, but I know you and me in talking before, and I think you may have brought it up on our podcast or in the past too. You were like, I feel like this international is not going to be as special as the last one because the last one it was just like this. It was this whole new thing, and you had no idea what to expect. Like you and me and Terps, we were just like in his basement for like 3 days watching and playing Dota and watching some of those games from the international. And so you had this undefeated juggernaut. You had Navi, who were the favorites, that you weren't sure if they were going to get far at all. They're the team that wind up letting Darkseer and Naga through, and you're like, this is over. What have they done? They just threw away the tournament. And then you see amazing plays come out of the whole Navi squad to take out that team, to go to the finals, and then to get to see IG take it, being able to play both styles of play very well. I mean, just the whole thing was just a fantastic story, I think, to get to be able to be there and witness.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to bring up that I forgot about, but our good friend Mott of the show, he actually linked me. He was asking like, "Did you see the play?" Which, by the way, there's in quotations, the play. Basically, they actually made their own top 10 of the whole event, which was just awesome. Like there was day 1 highlights, day 2 highlights, and then there was this one. It was between IG and Navi. I'm going to definitely link this YouTube video on our Facebook so you get a feel for it. But what it is, it's split into 4 sections. The top left is the audience, and this is where I saw us, our little tiny dots.
Yeah.
There was the 2 teams. It was Navi and IG. A camera view of each of them in their boxes, and then there was actually the game. Well, that makes sense to have a video view of that. And it was this play involving. I'm not going to try to describe it too much, but basically they were against Naga Siren and Tide Hunter and Puck and Lena and Darkseer. They had just this awfully awesome team, like Teamfight Central. And this is where everyone, like, when they saw a draft, was like, "Huh? You let them have all that? Are you kidding me, Navi?" Like, it was their second game. They're already down a game against IG. Like, everyone's like, "Good job, you threw it." Of course, everyone apparently throws them under the bus the second anything happens, but. But they had Enigma and Rubik, they had Juggernaut, they had some interesting heroes themselves, but there was a smoke gank from IG. They came around the river behind Navi. Naga popped her ultimate. They caught all 5 of Navi in it. Darkseer swooshed 4 of them together. And then, of course, as soon as Naga ult ended, Tidehunter went to Ravage, get the whole team stunned. But there's 2 important things that happened right before that. One, Dendy was kind of on the outside, so he was able to force staff himself out of the Ravage so it didn't hit him. And then he quickly spell stole Ravage right after it happened. The second, and probably the most important thing, was Light of Heaven's Enigma. He got his Black King bar off right before that Ravage hit, so he didn't get affected by it. Black holed 4 or 5 of their heroes together, and that's where Juggernaut started spinning. All their AoE, they dropped it, including now Dendy's new Ravage. And it was that was the most exciting, electric feeling you could get from the audience. And, like, that's why I love the particular YouTube I'm going to link, because you see the audience standing and just going batshit crazy, like, just nuts. And, and I was listening to it on the YouTube, and those feelings started rushing back to me, like, what I was feeling when it happened. And it was pretty loud. It was pretty loud for, like, that view. But it couldn't hold a candle to actually being there. Like, you could not experience it.
Yeah, that is the best game of Dota I have ever seen. May or may not be, and I'm serious, I'm not sure, if that's just because I was there and you just had all those people with you just simultaneously, like, because, of course, like we're saying, you saw these heroes get through the draft and you're like, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen. You just get like, Darkseer's going to ult and then everybody's going to die. And then they turn it around and it's just like, Navi fighting! But yeah, if you guys didn't get to see that game, go watch it, because it was fantastic. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Are we done? Are we closing up shop? Do you got more?
Any other anyone else have any last minute questions for us about the international, about something we did there, our experience?
Chicken feet. There's gonna be a
Chicken
video of
feet?
us eating
Oh
chicken feet.
God! So we went to get dim sum. It was my first time. Was it yours too?
Yes.
Okay, well, we went to get dim sum, thanks to Belinda, Ta, and Josh. And, yeah, we got to try a delicious dish called chicken feet. Well, actually, it's probably called something else in Chinese, but that's what
Oh,
we're calling it for now. There's actually a video and pictures of us, which maybe we'll throw one
I
on there.
tried posting it today and I failed at it,
Oh,
but
okay.
it'll get up there. Don't worry. Pretty. I was entertained watching it myself, having of course already been there. So hopefully you guys will also be amused by me and Jay's experience. But while we're waiting to see if you guys have any other things you want to add or ask or whatever, here's how it's going to work. We have, let's say, a bunch of beta keys that we're going to give away. We don't want to make you jump through hoops for them because Valve was nice enough to give them away. And we were lucky enough to get our beta keys early and stuff. We know you guys have been patiently waiting, still a lot of you to get them. So we might have a thing here or there, but we want you to like spend 30 seconds of your life doing something. But tune in next week, and I'm just gonna drop keys into the chat, and you guys can have at them. We'll probably think of some ways over the next, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to be able to hand them out. So if you guys have friends that still need beta keys, tell them to get here. And tune in. Maybe we'll even do some stuff to give them away on the Facebook and stuff. We haven't really thought it through all that much. We did just get back yesterday. But yeah, so be sure to keep tuning in. Of course, we love you guys tuning in tonight, coming back and listening to our old episodes. We really do appreciate it. It means a lot to us. So yeah, it looks like we're just about all done here.
Yeah,
So I think that's
so.
it.
I think
Tune in. Tune in next week for episode number 42 of our Dota on a Man podcast. Who knows what it's going to be about, because I have no idea. But it'll be fantastic, I promise, and that'll be your chance to win some Dota 2 beta keys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you then.